This is Live Anthrax, DJ Stormray, DJ Nevea, and our special guest, film critic Will Avitt.
And my mommy at work.
And mommy's at work. We are having a what just happened because the internet has exploded. Yesterday, Logan, Wolverine 3, Red Brand trailer dropped. Now, obviously, right here below, you got one of the movie posters released, and we watch the trailer and assume it's Logan, obviously Logan, holding X-23's hand. That's what we can assume from this movie so far. Yes. Will, what were your initial thoughts from on this entire trailer?
Well, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think that it goes much deeper than being just a superhero movie, and I really love and really appreciate that. I really like that the first two acts of the Wolverine went that way, but then in the third act it kind of devolves into just another superhero movie, and I'm really hoping this one doesn't do that. I think we have the potential of seeing something extremely special here with Logan. I think it could be brilliant.
I think that Logan has the potential to be the best Wolverine X-Men affiliated movie ever so far yet.
Better than Deadpool?
Way better. I mean, Deadpool was great in its own for the fact that it was a rated R. It broke this level, this achievement status, but the content of Deadpool was just that. It was just Deadpool. Deadpool doesn't really have a story, much more than he's Deadpool. Now we've built on Logan. We've built on Wolverine and the X-Men. We've known them for, well, when the movie comes out, it will be 17 years.
Right.
The first X-Men movie come out in 2000.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
that's correct.
And I guess over the timeline of X-Men, we'll have known Logan for, well, I mean, in depth for, 80 years? Even though he's actually 300 years old.
Daddy,
He's not that. Yeah.
He's from colonial. He was born in colonial America.
I love you.
Love you too.
Canada.
Canada, North America.
Yeah. Yeah, the late 1800s.
Yeah. So we have over 17 years. We've built this character, and it's finally coming.
It would be the mid-1800s, because X-Men Origins shows him fighting in the American Civil War.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's mid-1800s was when he was born.
Okay. Yeah. So, 200 years old, or coming up on it, in that ballpark. And we've just watched this character develop. Obviously, the timelines change, but that, regardless of the point, we have seen this character change. And what do you take out of this final step of Wolverine's character, and for Professor Charles Xavier also?
Well, that's actually really interesting, the dynamic between those two from everything that we've learned about this movie. You can see in the trailer that Professor X is a little off. And they're saying that Professor X is going to have... Right, he's going to have some kind of equivalent of, mutant psychic dementia, which is going to make him extremely dangerous as a mutant.
Yeah.
The worse his condition. And it's funny because, well, it's not really funny, but it's kind of poignant because in Days of Future Past, when Wolverine is talking to young Charles, he says to him, a long time ago, well, a long time from now, I was once your most helpless student. And now Professor Xavier's the helpless one. And it's Logan that's trying to protect and trying to help Charles. And I think that's a good role reversal. And I think that this movie is going to be, for X-Men fans, it's going to be really hard to watch.
It was hard just to watch
the trailer. Yeah. And so this movie for X-Men fans is going to be hard to watch. I think it's going to cut deep. I think it's really going to tug at the heartstrings. And yeah, I mean it's going to be something, if it's done right, and from the trailer it looks like it is. And I really trust James Mangold. I think Logan is going to be something pretty special. It's not just going to be a comic book movie. It's going to be a movie that just happens to have a comic book character in it.
Right. And I can agree with that. It has went almost full circle. We do see Logan taking care of Charles now, as it was the other way before. And we see each of them at the weakest component we've ever seen them.
Right.
And it's like you said, it's a movie that just happens to have some superheroes in it.
Right.
Some people on YouTube were comparing it to Days of End, I believe.
Days of End?
I might be wrong on that. But it's a story where character obviously develops, and they get to this point where you're just coming down to the final stretch, and it's the end is coming. We obviously can see that.
Right.
We have a scene in the trailer where Logan and X-23 walks up to him, and he's standing with a shovel. And we can most likely assume that's the burial of Charles Xavier. How does that make you feel, seeing that?
I think there's going to be tears, honestly. I think Patrick Stewart is an amazing actor. I think he's done great things with this part. And I think he's really going to make us feel Professor Xavier's death. It's not just going to be something you're going to see on screen, but you're going to feel it deep in your gut. And there's also some rumors going around that it may be Logan that actually has to put Charles down. And if that happens, if it does turn out that way, I mean that's really going to punch you in the gut.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I would love to see how they get to the point where it would have to be Logan putting Charles down, and we know that has to have something to do with the mutant dementia aspect. Now, where do we go with this story as of introducing X-23? Charles Xavier said, there is someone, when Logan's just looking for some sort of optimism, I would say, that obviously this is off of, or maybe adapted from the Old Man Logan series, and most of the other mutants and superhumans have been killed.
Right.
So,
and we know that there are these Reavers, and these Reavers are kind of the next step of evolution for humanity, so they're a step up even from mutants. And they're going around, they're genociding the mutants, and there aren't very many of them left when we meet Logan and Professor X in this movie. Now, as far as X-23 goes, obviously she's going to be a government experiment, and somehow Logan and Professor X are going to happen upon her. I don't know if she escapes on her own or if they liberate her. But I think that's going to be the crux of the movie, is they're going to be fighting the Reavers at the same time that they're fighting whoever is, Pierce or whoever is trying to reacquire X-23 for their program.
Right.
But she's not just going to be a little. It's not just going to be a little child that Logan is protecting. We can see from the trailer that she's pretty badass in her own right. So I'm very looking forward to that.
Yes. Another thing I think a lot of people are looking forward to, not just the continuation of the series, but the fact that it will be rated R. And the Red Band trailer really kind of throws you off. As I tweeted that comment from YouTube today, is exactly what went through my mind. And it says, well, the Red Band trailer is not really all that different. Like, it looks kind of the same. Oh, Jesus. Shit.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah. Right. And I like that there's not a lot of blood there, but you definitely see, the claws go all the way through, and that's exactly your reaction. You're just like, holy fuck!
Yeah. And I actually watched the Green Brand trailer first, and I thought I had chosen the Red Brand trailer, and I watched it and I was like, oh, well, okay. And I looked at it and I was like, no, that's the Green Brand. So I did find the red, and I was going through watching it, and I was like, there's not a difference. And then it hits you, and then I watched it about 10 more times over, so... The mood for this movie is just set phenomenally. I would almost go to argue that this is probably one of the best superhero trailers put out.
Well, I will go a step further than that. I think this is one of the best movie trailers I've ever seen.
Yes, and I would put it up there. And obviously, coming from you, it means a little bit more. I'm just, radio DJ, beginner YouTuber. So, as a film critic, how do you feel about this movie and the preparations that it's in for coming out next year?
Well, like I said, I'm excited. There were a lot of things that came out, and I was less excited. Honestly, this movie kind of broke my spirit up until the release of the trailer, because you saw these pictures of this little girl, and you know it's going to be X-23, but she looks too young to really be of any use. I didn't want that character to be wasted. That's a very good character, and I didn't want her to be wasted in this movie. And then the title came out, and they were like, it's called Logan, and I'm like, what? Why? And like a lot of stuff didn't make sense, but then you watch the trailer and everything hits you, and you realize where they're going with it. And you're like, oh my god, this is going to be one of the best movies of 2017. And I don't just mean comic book movies. This is going to be one of the best movies of 2017, and if done right, I could very well see there being some Oscar contention for this movie. And that'll be a great thing. Not just for comic book movies, but for the Fox's X-Men franchise as well.
And I agree that it really does take a step past just being a comic book movie. There is by far more emotion to this movie than there has been in any other superhero movie, for sure. I think it would be that way if the X-Men franchise wasn't 17 years old. If it was only 7 years old and they were going to push this out, yeah, it might be rushed, but I think that same emotion would be there. It's really a step forward for
It
the
might
superhero
be.
movie genre, I believe.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a step forward. But also, though, I think if they'd have done this movie or tried to do this movie 10 years ago, I don't know that it would have had the same impact. If they'd have tried to do this as the first solo Wolverine movie, I really don't think that it would have had the same impact that it'll have now. Because look at everything that we've had since then that has helped to develop not just the Wolverine character, but all of the characters in the X-Men franchise and the franchise as a whole. I really believe that this movie couldn't have been done before now. And I really believe that now is the time, and this, I think, will be the perfect movie to say goodbye to Hugh Jackman on, because, I mean, this is Hugh Jackman's last X-Men movie. And, yeah, I think it'll be the perfect movie for that. I think when everything is all said and done, Wolverine's claws and his wife beater need to be in the Smithsonian Institute. I think the character, as played by Hugh Jackman, has had that much of a cultural impact, and I think this movie's going to pay all that off.
And it's not only to go that far; it's that the Hugh Jackman needs another star on the walk for just this character. He needs to be in a Hall of Fame. There is literally nobody else who could have done this part to the magnitude that it was in, and and people will be sad seeing that that Hugh Jackman's done. I'm sad about it.
Right.
I wish he was
Right.
10 years younger so we could have another one.
Right.
Now,
But also, I mean, Wolverine has been in every X-Men movie. In First Class and Apocalypse, he only had cameos, but he's been in every single one. Deadpool is the only X-Men universe movie he wasn't in, and he's name dropped all the time in that movie.
yeah,
So,
I'll give you a
yeah, I
hint.
mean,
It
he is a
rhymes
big
with
part of this
Wolverine.
franchise. Right. So he is a big part of this franchise, and it'll be interesting to see how the franchise goes on without him. I have no doubt that it will. Concern is, with this movie being set, this movie is set 1 year after the future events of Days of Future Past. So when Wolverine resets the timeline and he wakes up in the mansion and Jean's alive and Scott's alive and Rogue is back with Iceman and he put everything right, this movie is 1 year after that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with X-23. I really don't want to see her end up being a one-off character.
No.
I really hope that they find a way to bring her back into the past timeline and use her and see how she does as a Wolverine surrogate going forward. I'd like to see something happen to send her back to the 90s and to be part of the new X-Men films that are coming.
Yes.
with
That's the
Cyclops
next
and
thing
Storm.
That's the next thing I wanted to address. How does Fox go about linking X-Men Apocalypse, which was in the late 1980s, right? Or set there. The next one is supposed to be in the 1990s. How do we go about tying X-23 to any of these events? We know that major things have yet to develop, and the rest of the X-Men movies are essentially going to be a prequel.
Yeah, but I think Wolverine 3, I think Logan is going to stand on its own. In fact, James Mangold has pretty much said that. He said that, don't worry about timelines, don't worry about continuity. This movie's going to stand on its own. And I think when it's over, when it's all said and done, I think you'll be able to take, no matter what the other X-Men movies do, I think you'll be able to take X-Men Origins Wolverine, The Wolverine, and Logan, and I think you'll be able to watch those as a coherent trilogy. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I think that's how it'll play out. And I think that you won't really have to worry about what's going to happen in the X-Men movies, because I don't think Logan's really going to address it.
So, do you think what they're doing is going to put off the Wolverine trilogy as to its own story and kind of separate from the X-Men line?
No, I mean, I think there are always going to be ways that you can watch certain X-Men movies and have your own little continuity between those certain movies. So, I mean, you can watch the three prequel movies, the three first class movies, and have a nice trilogy. You can watch the three original trilogy movies and have a nice trilogy. Watch the Wolverine movies and have a nice trilogy. You can also start at X-Men Origins Wolverine and watch 1, 2, 3 Days of the Wolverine, Days of Future Past, and now maybe Logan, and watch all of the quote-unquote Wolverine-centric movies and have a nice little film series that way. Or you can, ignore the Wolverine films and just watch the X-Men films and have a nice little 6-film series that way. I think the X-Men team films are the ones that have the most continuity errors between them, though.
Right, especially with the jump in the time and changing of, how
See,
all
I
this
really
is
like
gonna go.
I really like these X-Men movies. I always have. Obviously, some of them are better than others. Some of them are less good than others. But I've always loved these X-Men movies since X-Men came out in 2000. When the first X-Men came out, I was still in the Army.
When
I
the
went to
first
the movie
X-Men
to
movie
boot-
come out, I was 5 years old.
That's because you're a child.
That's that, but that for 90s kids, 80s kids, it
Right.
puts a totally different perspective onto our experience through these movies.
Right.
And that's what hits so hard, is because we are emotionally invested in these movies.
Right, yeah.
We've grown
for
with the movies.
For anybody, 17 years is a big chunk of your life.
Yeah.
And, like you said, you were 5 years old when the first X-Men came out in 2000. So these movies have been your entire childhood, well into adulthood.
Yeah.
Me, I was barely 20 years old. I was, like I said, still in the Army, single, living in the barracks. And then now I'm, married with 15 million kids, and I own a home, and I'm no longer in the Army. So, my life has gone through a lot of changes through the course of these movies. And yeah, when they're over, and the X-Men movies aren't over, just Wolverine's involvement in them. But when you come to the end of something like this, you do stop and take a look back, and you're like, man, I've spent a lot of my years invested in this thing. Half of my life and the majority of your life has been invested in these movies.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad, but.
Yeah. Well, when you put it like that, it's a different kind of thing. It's hard to ask so many questions because there's so much we still don't know yet. How much do you think this movie is going to pull from the Old Man Logan series?
Not very much. And I say that because the Old Man Logan comics are not really an X-Men story. They are more of an Avengers story. So you've got Logan in the midst of all of these supporting characters who are all Avengers characters. So you've got Old Man Hulk is in the book. Old Man Hawkeye is a major character in the book. Mm-hmm. You've got the Red Skull is a major villain in the book.
Kingpin.
And so I don't think it's gonna. Right.
I'm trying to think. There's different villains, and Hulk, who essentially owns sections of the world or the country.
Right. And so yeah, the movie is going to be quite a bit different. I think you're going to see parallels. You're going to see elements. I think James Mangold, it's kind of like what he did with the Wolverine. It's very much its own movie. It's very much its own story, but you can definitely see the roots of the Chris Claremont, Frank Miller miniseries that it was based on.
Right.
That's come to be known as, the Japan saga. But there are still other scenes that are pulled right directly from the book. In the Wolverine, the scene with the bear in the woods, that's pulled directly from the book. And with the hunters in the bar is very much from the book. So I think this movie is going to do the same thing. I think if you read Old Man Logan, or if you've read Old Man Logan, you'll go into this movie and you'll see the callbacks. You'll see the little bits and pieces scattered throughout that are very much Old Man Logan. But James Mangold is going to give you his story, his movie, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
Right. I don't think it's a bad thing either. I guess that kind of leaves... We essentially have three worlds in the superhero genre. We have Fox, Marvel, and DC. And this, obviously, Deadpool and Logan take kind of a darker, more world-like turn for their movies now. And DC's started that way. It has some dark aspects. And a lot of people don't like that. But some are really starting to come around. And as much attention as Logan is generating, do you think this style of superhero movie is going to leave Marvel behind?
I think Marvel is leaving Marvel behind. I know that's not going to be a very popular opinion.
Or is it
but
Disney's leaving Marvel behind?
That too. I mean, I can definitely see the Disneyfication of all these different Marvel movies. Disney is starting to very much get their hands and feet more in the water. Everything that I know about Spider-Man Homecoming, even though that's not a Disney movie, it's a Sony movie, you can still see where Disney is leaving their paw print on it. And it really is coming off as a Disney Channel version of Spider-Man. And I feel like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 kind of looks very Disney-fied.
Yeah.
Also, with Baby Groot, I think is going to get really annoying in that movie. I think Marvel is leaving the substance behind and just counting on the one-liners. I think there was so much that they missed out on it thematically with Civil War, and it's a shame. Civil War was a good movie. Don't get me wrong. I love Civil War. We talked about Civil War on your radio program when that came out. We both really enjoyed that movie. But I thought Batman versus Superman was a little more daring. And that's what I love about Logan. Logan is very daring. Logan is very, it's going to push the envelope. And I like when superhero movies do that. Marvel has carved this neat little box for itself. It's content with staying in its box. And that's fine. You go to a Marvel movie knowing it's going to be a Marvel movie, just like you go to Transformers knowing it's going to be Transformers. If you're expecting Transformers to be something poignant and a good story, you're expecting too much out of that movie. And it's the same thing with Marvel. If you're expecting Marvel to not be quippy, to be dark, or to be heavy, or to have substance, you're expecting too much out of that Marvel movie. That's not what they're trying to do. But I appreciate that other comic book movies are trying to do that. And it kind of breaks my heart to see critics and fans hold DC movies, and I fear they're going to do it to Logan, hold these movies to the Marvel standard. I think that's a mistake, because I think what Marvel's doing is fine for Marvel, but I think what other movies are doing can be fine for them.
And that's the perfect example is especially DC. DC cannot go about doing the same type of movie that Marvel is doing. Batman is not a happy-go-lucky character.
Right. Well, and they tried with Suicide Squad. I really feel like they cut a lot and they recut Suicide Squad, and they did some reshoots on Suicide Squad to make it more Marvel. And I feel like they did that movie a disservice.
Yeah. I have not seen the extended cut yet, but from what I understand is that
It's not out yet.
okay, yeah, but when from what I understand so far, like we're missing what 40 or 50 minutes of film Jared Leto as Joker.
Yeah, yeah, but the extended cut's not going to have that much in it.
They're not even going to put much
It's only
back in
going to
it.
be like 15. Yeah, it's only going to be like 15 minutes longer.
Okay, so it's not even going to be like Batman vs Superman extended cut,
Right.
where they put in half an hour. But it's one of those things like Suicide Squad. They tried and they struck out with it. It was good. It was a good movie. Don't get me wrong. We talked about it. It was great. Fox hasn't really tried that. It has its humor. It has its serious, and it's back and forth. But I think essentially Marvel is going to have to toughen up if they're going to want to stay in the race with Fox and DC.
Well, I think Josh Trank did try that with Fantastic Four. And I think Fantastic Four could have been something special, but I think Fox got in the way of that. I think Josh Trank's original vision for Fantastic Four, kind of a dark sci-fi horror movie, like an Alien kind of a movie featuring the Fantastic Four characters, I think that could have been great. But once Fox got in there and started meddling with it, it all fell apart. And I think that happened with the Wolverine a little bit too, but only in the last act. I think the first two acts of the Wolverine are still great. And again, hopefully they've said to James Mangold, look, make your movie, we're going to butt out. Hopefully they've done that. And if they have, I think Logan will be something special.
Right.
And maybe it'll teach Fox, and maybe Deadpool taught Fox a little bit too, to just back up, let your director do what your director wants to do. Because Fox didn't even want to make Deadpool. Fox was against Deadpool. And Ryan Reynolds kind of forced them to make it. And then they made, a ton of money. So hopefully Fox is starting to realize, hey, maybe we're retarded and we should let our creative team do the creative stuff.
Right. And obviously Fox has realized that there's a point that they have to go at, especially with this movie going through. They're doing the right thing. I don't see how you could really push this. I don't know how you could push Logan as a PG movie. I think they'll be able to put the right things into it as a rated R movie.
Yeah, I agree. And you could do a PG-13 Wolverine movie. We've had two of them. But I don't think you can do this movie PG-13. And so I'm glad that they're taking that chance with it. And no, it doesn't have anything to do with Deadpool. Everybody wants to be like, oh, well, because of Deadpool, that's why you get an R-rated Wolverine. No, I really don't think that's true. I think because of James Mangold is why we're getting an R-rated Wolverine.
And I would say it's because of James Mangold, because this movie would have been rated R regardless if Deadpool came out last year. Within the last year.
Right.
It would have happened.
Right.
There wasn't a way to make this movie without it being tougher, dirtier, grittier. It had to be. It's the final send-off for Logan. It had to be a Wolverine-esque movie. And anybody who's knowledgeable at all about Wolverine is he's not your common superhero. He's essentially just a badass who's working for the good side.
Right.
And I really think that whether it's Fox or Marvel, they're missing out on some of these things, and they're finally starting to figure it out. Like with the Punisher TV series going to be coming, it's you have this essential badass who needs to be recognized. But in the standard Marvel way, it wasn't going to happen. And I give Fox all the credit due. They're finally doing the right thing.
Right, and you could have done. I mean, obviously the Netflix shows do exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you could have done Daredevil in the Marvel style as a movie, but you couldn't do the Punisher without Netflix. And to be honest, I don't think Daredevil would have been as good had they made a movie, a regular MCU movie. So I think that show even benefited from that Netflix format.
And I completely agree with that. Punisher, we've had 2 Punisher movies. Neither of them were up to the par that they could have been, or should have been. And if they would have made a movie, it would have fallen short too. The character needs so much. There's so much to the character beyond just being a former military honored gunman. He has so much. And it's the same thing with Daredevil. He's not just a lawyer with heightened senses because he's blind who fights crime at night. That's such a broad outline that there's too much to build on this. And that is exactly why the X-Men franchise, in my opinion, has done so well, regardless of what certain critics think, is because they have had time to develop all this and to build. And
right.
And Logan, the internet's went batshit crazy, Will, about this movie, and it's a completely different kind of crazy than any other movie has provided, and it's because people are invested to this movie because there has been a development.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
I completely agree with that.
We talk about wanting to see more of X-23 than a standalone. How do we possibly segue her into the rest of the X-Men franchise? Because this is in 2024. The X-Men is in the 1990s.
Yeah, I mean, they'll have to do something. That'll be something for Bryan Singer or whoever's going to be directing the movies to figure out. Maybe she can show up in Deadpool 2 and go from there. I don't know. Maybe she can come with Cable. Maybe Cable's from the same year. Maybe Cable's from, the Logan timeline, and we just don't know it. I don't know. But, I mean, they're going to have to figure out some way.
Yeah, and there has to be some layoff, because X-23 is just too large of a character to be dumped in a one-time only format. And I really hope they don't screw this up.
Right.
How do we go forward with the Charles Xavier development after seeing him, possibly seeing him die in Logan 3, or Wolverine 3, Logan?
Well, what do you mean?
What's that?
What do you mean?
In the actual X-Men line, how do we go about continuing to develop this character when we have so much already, so much of the before, and then we get to see the end? What more is there to develop?
Oh, do you mean with the 90s movies? With
yes,
the X-Men movies?
With the X-Men line that will be in the 90s.
I don't think there is any more to develop with him. I don't know if they're going to bring back James McAvoy or if they're going to cast somebody a little more age appropriate. So we'll have the young Professor X, the middle-aged Professor X, and then the old Professor X with Patrick Stewart. I don't know how they're going to go about doing that. But I think whatever they do, if they bring back McAvoy or if they recast again with, like, say, somebody in their 50s, I think that they're going to just leave Professor Xavier in the background more. I think with the First Class trilogy and then with Logan, I think we'll have said everything we need to have said about Professor X. So he'll still very much be there, because he's the mentor of the X-Men, but he'll stay in that capacity. And then the next 3 X-Men movies will focus very much, I think, on Cyclops, Jean, and Storm. And maybe Nightcrawler, but definitely Cyclops, Jean, and Storm. So we're going to start seeing those characters be developed. And if there's Magneto, he'll be, he'll just be the Magneto we've seen. And if there's Professor X, he'll just be the Professor X that we've already seen, and very much in the background.
Okay. What are some of your other perceptions and thoughts from this trailer? What pieces really stuck out to you?
Well, seeing Professor X and seeing how he's lagging behind, he's clearly struggling, he's having a good go of it. That's something that really sticks with you. Seeing Wolverine, and I mean Wolverine in this movie, you can tell he's hit fuck it. He's just he doesn't have, I don't feel, any fight left in him. And so I think you're going to see through the course of this movie him learn to fight again. And I like that aspect of it. But I think the thing about the trailer that really grabbed me the most is the Johnny Cash song.
Hurt.
I think that Johnny Cash singing Hurt was the perfect thing to put over the background of this trailer. I think it set the perfect mood,
and the
perfect
cover
tone, and I think it really puts you in the right place.
The cover of Hurt from Johnny Cash is more well received as Johnny Cash's song, it's kind of was handed off to Johnny Cash just basically after he wrote it, because he did it so much better. Arguably the best cover that's ever been done, and it's
Trent Reznor has said this is Johnny Cash's song now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's no longer a Nine Inch Nails song.
No,
it's a Johnny Cash song that Nine Inch Nails happened to do first.
And I've actually covered that topic on my radio show. And Trent said it's not mine. I wrote it, but it's not mine.
Right.
And that is, it's Johnny Cash wrote it, late in his life, just before death, and he'd put life into that song. And I think it fits exactly with the development of what this movie will be, is because Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, they're putting the life that's left of these characters into the movie. And immediately when that first guitar chord is strummed at the beginning of the trailer, the mood's set. I think of everything, that is what probably sticks the most. And it also just happens to go along with I'm just a huge Johnny Cash fan. By my top 5 artists by far. So it really kind of stuck.
I was actually watching Walk the Line right before we started this thing.
That's ironic.
Which again was a James Mangold film.
Yes, it was. And a phenomenal film, really.
Right.
It really embodied what was Johnny Cash. Let's see. The movie Logan is set to release March of 2017.
Yeah.
We have 5 months.
Yeah.
How many more trailers are we going to get?
2. That seems to be the standard. You get 3 trailers.
What do you think is going to be in those trailers?
I have no idea, but I'll tell you what, nothing needs to be in them. And Fox doesn't even need to make them, honestly. Honestly,
I was thinking the same thing. If
this 1 minute and a half trailer is enough to get butts in the seats in
Yeah.
5 months.
I was thinking about it today. I was thinking, I says, what will I talk about on this review of the trailer? And I was thinking, I was like, what are we going to get more out of the next trailer? I said, what's going to happen? And I was thinking about it, it says 5 months, so we'll get another one in 2 months maybe. And I was thinking,
Maybe.
I was thinking, Fox could just re-release the same damn thing.
Right.
And
maybe a little bit longer.
And people could
maybe a 3-minute trailer.
Yeah, but they could release the same exact trailer, and people would still be just as excited. That trailer, that first one, is going to put asses in seats. It's going to sell tickets.
Right.
Where do you think March comes out? Where do you think Logan is going to stand as for sales? What?
I think if it does less than 70 million, something's wrong. But I see this doing well over 100 million domestically.
Just 100,
which for a rated
domestic.
R movie is really good. Domestic, yeah.
I can agree. I don't see why Logan can't blow Deadpool out of the water. I don't see why not.
I think it has that possibility. I don't think that they should shoot for that, though. I think that they should concentrate on just making the movie they want to make. And don't try to sit there and think, well, what can we do to make this the biggest selling superhero? Don't care about that. Don't care about sales. Don't care about awards. Don't care about any of that. Just say, you know what? This is the story that my heart needs to tell, and tell it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what James Mangold has done.
Yeah, and by no means do I disagree with that. That is definitely a key. Is Fox needs to focus on this story. They don't need to focus on anything else that's going to be around. And I can agree with that completely. Let's give this trailer a rating. I know on everything you do a 4-star, but sometimes I feel that gets a little congested. Let's double it. Let's put an 8-star on that, or 8-star total out of this.
Okay.
There's a lot of depth to this 1 minute and 30 seconds. There's more
True.
depth in this 1 minute 30 seconds than there is some Hollywood movies that are being cranked out.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
Let's pick it up. Let's go 8 stars out of 8. Where are we sitting?
8.
We're sitting at 8.
I honestly, this trailer is a perfect 10. A+, perfect 10, 4 stars, 8 stars.
But
there was not one flaw in this trailer. The trailer is flawless. From the song to the editing to the little punch at the end with the claws. I mean, the movie is perfect. The trailer is perfect.
Yeah. And if they continue on that path, the movie will be perfect too. But if we go for the perfect, you give it a perfect 10, full amount. In the rock world, we always say we want to turn it up to 11, and that's what I would give it out of 10.
Okay.
It was an 11 out of 10. It was a 9 out of 8. It was a 5 out of 4. It went way beyond any expectations I honestly had. I was like you. I was a little skeptical. I wondered where they were going to go. How are they going to end it? I was really, really worried that for Hugh Jackman's last movie, we wouldn't get what we needed. And as of standing right now, since The Dark Knight was coming out, this is the most excited I have been for a superhero movie.
I definitely agree. I would. I'm anticipating this now after the trailer more than I was even Batman v Superman, and that was my most anticipated movie of my lifetime.
Oh yeah, you and I both. That was, I mean, there wasn't a day we didn't go by before that movie came out that you or I didn't share something to each other about, being excited little teenage girls for our first date or some shit.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm not ashamed.
No, not at all. And for any of our fan base, there is no shame to it. You know what? We are comic nerds, and that's where we're sitting. I mean, I am in some teen angst for this movie. It is crazy.
This movie has me giddy like a schoolgirl.
Yes, it really does. After watching the trailer about 6 times this afternoon, I had to change my panties, and I also had to get another. And I also had to get another box of Kleenexes. So, that's just how it is. There's so much, as we said, invested into this movie because it has taken a large part of our life.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add.
No, I don't think there is anything to add. Logan, Wolverine 3 trailer, 10 out of 10.
Yep, definitely a 10 out of 10. Perfect. It's a perfect trailer.
And I can expect there will be more. We'll probably get into it and talk more as other trailers come out. As a short little plug, other superhero movies coming out will be
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange is next month.
Yeah, it's in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, in about 2 weeks. It's coming up right on us. So we will probably have something over that for everybody who's interested. And then that rounds out the year, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And then I think Logan is the next superhero movie after Doctor Strange.
Well, you might not be interested in it, but come about February 8th, I think it is, Nevaeh and I will probably be doing a review for Lego Batman.
Oh, okay. That'll be
that should be pretty awesome. I'll put the plug in for that. It comes out like the 8th of February. Nevaeh's birthday is like the 10th of February. So,
okay.
That I'm actually really excited about that. I've been stupid excited about that also. So, and I know she will be because it's anything Batman. But
well, she's your kid, so
yeah, that's true. So there we have it. Doctor Strange in about 2 weeks. Lego Batman in about 4 months, and in about 5 months, Logan. So I think we have we have some content to put out for the next couple months, and I'm really excited. Thank you, Will.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you, Will, for
I never get tired of these.
No, never. Thank you for joining in on Live Anthrax.
Thank you for having us on pre-recorded Live Anthrax.
Yeah, it's funny how that works on YouTube. Our Live Anthrax is pre-recorded half the time, so